Well, first let's introduce ourselves. I'm Debbie Lee Cohen. I'm the director and producer of the movie Microplastic Madness, and also the director of our nonprofit organization called Cafeteria Culture. And Cafeteria Culture is an environmental education organization that works primarily in underserved New York City schools. Although now we have a reach across the world, sharing what we pilot in New York with the rest of the whole world. We're super excited. And this movie has helped us to really broaden our educational audience, and also our audience, our advocacy, our youth advocacy audience. So the Cafeteria Culture made this movie. And I'd like to introduce Atsuko.
Hi everybody, thank you for watching. I'm Atsuko Quirk, also co-director and producer of Microplastic Madness. And we are thrilled to show this to YouTube audience. And it took like 3 years to make this movie, and all of us, all of our teams, like heart of 3 years, all into this movie. And it was so inspiring to work with those students, and the community was amazing. And we'll probably talk in the Q&A as well. And Rhonda, introduce yourself.
I'm Rhonda Kaiser, and I'm the outreach director. I also help implement the programs in the schools. We go into classrooms and teach it. I get to also go into the cafeterias and help student leadership to help the sorting improve, so that we can capture the resources rather than sending them to the landfill or incinerator. But we teach students about the why of what we're doing. And I think the movie kind of makes that clear. And it's such a joy. I start to cry at the end of the movie every time I watch it, and it's hard to stop because it's such a joy to be part of the solution. So
can I let everybody know, Linda asked a question about how can other schools access the movie. So on our Microplastic Madness website, you can go to microplasticmadness.org. We have on the drop-down menu there, and posted on our chat right here, host a screening. You can sign up. Any school, any organization can sign up. It's free for all Title I schools. What we try to be available for Q&As with all schools. We're self-distributing the movie, and part of the reason we're doing that is so that we can really have a reach to our audiences. So we speak with students, and we're actually in the classroom. Because of the pandemic, one of the positive things that has come out of the pandemic is that classrooms are more willing to do virtual programming with people like us. So we've been able to be in classrooms all around the world. And please let us know if there's a school that would like to watch it and they can't afford the fee. We work with everybody. Our goal is to get the message out there and then continue. Like, the movie is just step one. Step two is, what actions can we take? And what we're finding, it's not just fifth graders in Red Hook, Brooklyn. It's fifth graders, it's third graders, it's high school students, it's college students, it's senior citizens, that we can all take action, and immediate action, to stop the plastic pollution crisis.
Yeah, that's right. So we've put some links in the chat about hosting a screening, and we also have free remote learning resources that you can use in your community groups, your green team, in your schools, the classrooms, and that will it helps sort of drive home the message of the movie.
And also for schools that do screen the movie, the curriculum that you see in the movie is curriculum that we developed, Cafeteria Culture. The movie is actually a great documentation of what our environmental education programs are like. And we have that curriculum to share with teachers. Right now, that curriculum is not, there are parts of it that work really well for remote learning and parts of it that don't. So what we've been doing, we've been working on high gear actually since the pandemic started, adapting as much of our resources and our lesson plans as possible, as well as developing new lessons for remote learning. And much of that is on our website right now, and it's free. And that's our goal. That's what we do. We pilot curriculum, and then we try to get it out to the world for others to use it for free, to address the most urgent issues of the moment around zero waste and the plastic pollution crisis and the climate crisis.
And the movie is now available in Spanish subtitles, German, Japanese, and then soon to be Russian. And we're really hoping to get, more languages to be subtitled. So, stay tuned. And also, we are planning to make a dubbed version in Japanese, but also, we want to make more dubbed version as well for, especially for younger audiences. That will be easier for, kids to actually understand.
Right. Michelle Heron in the comments said that the movie can be a catalyst for action. That's exactly why we made the movie. That's why we do the curriculum that we do in schools, but we really wanted to have a wider reach. And our YouTube channel has over 30 million views at this point. So we have a lot of shorter movies that we make about this, but we really wanted to make a feature-length documentary to reach wider audiences. And at this point, we have more than 20,000 views in 37 countries, 6 awards. And how many film festivals is that, Atsuko?
It is like 32 festivals, and actually, we just found out it's like 7 awards that we won the best feature documentary from a festival in Nigeria. So
Wow.
that's the 7th award that we got, which is amazing.
Fantastic.
Exciting. We're still reaching. We just got a request from Poland, which is exciting. We haven't shown the movie so much in Eastern Europe yet, South America, and Africa. So we're looking at other parts of the world to really target. I mean, it's a big world out there. And what's been fascinating for us is doing these Q&As all around the world. It's not just us sharing the information, but we're learning a tremendous amount from classrooms, organizations all over the world. We have this opportunity to begin to gather information, not just about plastic pollution, but also about plastic pollution education and environmental education. And it's really helping us then to formulate what else can we add to our resources to share with not just New York City, not just the US, but countries across the world.
Yeah, it's all very exciting.
Yeah, we've done Q&As with kids in Qatar and people in Jordan and people in Russia. It was really interesting to find out how actually they do, but they do have the same problems about, of plastic all over the world.
And one of the things that we've found out recently, just Linda just asked about, she didn't understand so much the extent of microplastic pollution. Really, since the movie was made, there's been when we first started to make the movie and we talked about the word microplastics, most people didn't even know what that word meant. They'd never heard it. And that's also fascinating to think how quickly in just a couple years that's become a household word through the media. Now people know there's microplastics in the oceans. What people don't know now in general is how much we eat and breathe microplastics. It's estimated that we're eating a credit card's worth of plastic a week, which is kind of hard to imagine. And as Dr. Chelsea says, well, we don't know yet what the health implications of that are. But I was on a webinar a few nights ago, actually, with Dr. Landrigan, who used to be at Mount Sinai's Children's Environmental Health, who led the fight and really some of the best research around lead poisoning in children in New York City. And his comment was, we don't need any more proof to know that this is something we have to be concerned about. That we know that the chemicals that are inside the plastics, as Dr. Chelsea explained, there's all kinds of chemicals added to plastics to make it colorful, to make it flexible, for all kinds of things. And some of them are just horrible, and especially in particular for women, and hormones, and very frightening. And we know now also that they cross into the placenta. The most recent study came out into human placenta, found microplastics in placenta and in human placenta. And so that really got people's attention. If we know that, we also know that children, the fetus is probably the most vulnerable. And if pregnant women are vulnerable and young children are vulnerable, we know now that babies are getting microplastics in formula that's heated in baby bottles, that microplastics are in fact everywhere. They're in the most remote places in the world. They're in our bodies. We're breathing them in our own apartments, in our own homes. and that we cannot wait to take the action. We cannot wait for proof to find out, are these chemicals going to hurt us? As Dr. Landrigan said, we already know that these chemicals that are in plastics are dangerous to human health.
Yeah, this whole plastic problem got people's attention because plastic was in the ocean first, right? So then people sort of discovered that something is happening in the ocean, and then it used to be all about ocean problem, but it's becoming a critical health issue now. So that the whole concept of plastic problem, plastic pollution, microplastic pollution is really shifting now to really becoming our own health issue and public health issue. So that's the sort of like a dynamic that where we are right where we are now. But even while we were editing this movie to find out the best way to tell this story, the this issue, like there are like always new studies come out like every month, and then people's concept really was shifting. So that was really one really challenging part of defining the storytelling, which is not heavily affected by how people think about the issue, but we wanted to be more on recipe for change, so that this is focused on how you can make a change, how kids can actually come up on their own solutions to take action. So that was sort of the focus. So then the movie will actually live really long time.
Right, because the movie is a recipe for change, and it involves students. It's part of their learning process. So I think we've talked about before that our curriculum is a inquiry-based learning, where students' questions are leading our exploration and their answers then through their civic engagement, their answers come in the form of victories. And you saw the victories in the movie. Sometimes the victories are just about moving the needle forward, opening the discussion with more people. When students do everything from talking to their electeds to rallying at the city hall to speaking to neighbors about why they should use reusable bags, they're seeing adults respond to the information that they have with aha moments, which brings so much inspiring change to both the students themselves and to the adults they're speaking with. Somebody asked the question about how COVID is affecting plastic and styrofoam in schools. We have created a litter cleanup toolkit. If Debbie Lee, if you want to talk about that, or, oh wait, you're muted.
First, I'll just say about the pandemic.
Yeah.
That we're asked that question a lot about, what's happened. Of course, there's been an acceleration of a horrible amounts, an incredible increase of single-use plastics, not just PPE, not just, your masks and your gloves and all those things, but also to-go food. And if you live in an urban environment, we found this out on Q&As around the world. It's not just New York City as we see here, but it's cities across the world, similar problems. Day one of the pandemic in the US, the plastic industry it was like they were on steroids. They were in the halls of Congress in DC that day pushing for the safety of single-use plastics during the pandemic. So they really used it as an opportunity to exploit, I think, the whole situation. Whereas the advocacy world for reducing plastic pollution was holding back to be polite, which we shouldn't have at that time, we see now. And since then, of course, there have been enough studies to find out that it's not any more dangerous to use reusables than single-use plastics. It might be safer, we don't know. But in terms of how long the virus particles will last on a particular surface, there's no proof that actually plastics are any safer. So what do we do with all that? And I think one of the main things right now is really focusing on policy, local, regional, as well as national policies to reduce single-use plastics. And whether that's bans, plastic bans are very effective. Also in this country, in the US in particular, that we have to focus on slowing down the production. We have to make less plastic, as Judith Enck said in the movie. There's no other way out of it. Right now, we're scheduled to, I can't remember the numbers offhand, I'm sorry, I'll look them up in a minute, but we're scheduled to just keep increasing, as we've been doing since the 60s, to continually exponentially increase the amount of plastic that we're producing, which is not only a problem because of the litter and the ingestion of microplastics, but also because of its connection to the climate crisis. And we cannot solve the climate crisis without solving the plastic pollution crisis. So this is a moment in time where we really do have to take action despite the pandemic. And in schools right now, they're also in like steroid mode. You know, they're like using more plastics than ever. In New York City, we see that with grab and go meals. Okay, the good side of that is that New York City is really working hard to make sure that that students who go to public school and families that are in need are getting meals, right? But they're packaging them, they're Uber packaging them in plastic. So apples are wrapped in plastic, milk cartons are wrapped in plastic because of condensation. So what are we doing at Cafeteria Culture? Atsuko and Rhonda can tell you about our desktop lunch survey, which we're just piloting this month, so that students, again, just like in the movie during non-pandemic era, they're doing a waste audit. We thought, okay, we've got to find a way to do a waste audit remotely during the pandemic.
Yeah. So we started with our 5th graders because we really, our youngest learners are generally super enthusiastic and more capable than anybody could imagine. As you saw in the movie, the blue tarp waste audit was where we would take all the waste from the cafeteria, what was tossed out in the cafeteria, and counted it. So that we could quantify the amount of the problem. And now with the pandemic happening, we have, of course, not everyone eating all together in the cafeteria. And we don't want people to sort through other people's waste. So people are doing their own desktop lunch survey using the devices that they are Zooming with, and they're counting each, they're listing each item and then counting all of the different items so they could characterize what's in the waste, what's in their lunch, what's getting wasted, and how much of it is getting wasted. And then we're connecting it with Common Core standard math lessons that can help them extrapolate out the numbers in their school, in their district, in the whole New York City school district, so that they can really make a case for reducing the amount of plastic that's in their lunch. We're still moving towards a plastic-free lunch day and continuing that, and we're not stopping it during the pandemic.
And then also, you know, through this desktop lunch survey, even remote students from home can join to, you know, learn and about how you tell this story, how to make a change, and who you are talking to, you know, all those details, right? So that who actually packed this item? Is a kitchen people pack this, or a manufacturer pack this, or, you know, who you are talking to actually reduce, like a very exact action that they will come up by looking at that actual item on their desk. So that's sort of like where we are going. And then also they're learning about filming and like, you know, storytelling through this. So that's, you know, sort of like very fun part.
Yeah, with cafeteria culture, one of the driving overarching principles is that good data drives policy, but also good stories and good storytelling. So that makes it really, both of them together is the 1-2 punch and making it really compelling. And then of course, kids delivering it makes it sort of unimpeachable. It's a very compelling set of arguments. We've also noticed that a lot of people, in addition to gathering data in the classroom about lunches, people are doing more litter cleanups at least in New York City after the pandemic. I think they're at home, maybe they're noticing more litter on the streets. We have created a DIY litter data plus action litter survey, where people can collect litter and beautify their streets, but also collect litter data. And then they can use that data to help advocate when you call your electeds, to bring in that personal data, to tell them about the street litter cleanups you're doing. And maybe even if you're going to tweet it out to them, or use social media and tag your elected officials, you can show them the pictures, the before and after pictures of what you've done. You can show them the litter collection, data collection sheets, and show them exactly how much was there, and what was there. So you could even tweet out if there's a particular company that there's seeing a lot of street litter from, you know, hey, XYZ company, I'm seeing your straws everywhere here in this block that I just cleaned up. What can you do about it?
And what's really incredible about the local street litter data collection, whether it's fifth graders, whether it's an intergenerational group, that was part of our intention for the pandemic, that like you could go out with your quarantine, you know, your family or your friends, whoever your pod is, if you can't go with your classmates and it's outdoors. And by collecting this data, that you have an insider's point of view if it's your block or your neighborhood. So we find, just like in the movie with our students in Red Hook, Brooklyn, they can identify whether they say, oh, that yellow plastic bag, I know which store, I know which deli has that yellow bag. Oh, and that bodega over there, they're the ones who use the black plastic bags. So they can then target directly. They can go directly to the store, to the local store, and talk to the store owners. They're the customers, just like on your own block. If you're living in a city or in a neighborhood, you know the store owners. It's where you're spending your money. They're going to listen to you first and be more excited to hear what you say than having the government come to them and say, oh, please change your bags or use less bags. So there's also an incredible opportunity to gather information that municipalities don't usually gather themselves. So in the movie, as you see the students showing this data to the Department of Sanitation people, as she says, I love when she says that line, the Department of Sanitation and our government in New York City doesn't have that data. And then they go to City Hall, and once again, they're the only ones at that hearing with that specific data. And so we have this opportunity. You don't even have to go to City Hall, as Rhonda's saying. You don't even have to be great at social media, but tagging your policymakers on social media with just one great photo, just laying out your visual data. And then if you have numbers to add to it in the text of your message on your, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Instagram, that in itself can be very powerful. And actually not just for policymakers, but also for manufacturers. And I think that's a good lead in to Atsuko maybe telling us about the recipe for change. Like there's certain things that are easy for us to do, and many of us are doing already. And then where do you go? What are the next steps in that recipe for change that are a little bit deeper, maybe take a little more work, but maybe are a little bit more impactful?
Yes, so I recommend you doing your own plastic survey, how, you know, what you're using at home. And then maybe for a week, you know, or even 3 days, you collect all the plastic that single-use plastics that you use, and then lay it out and take a picture. And then now, even you know what you're using, but if you take a picture that way, then now your brain starts sort of like working that, oh, this, and this, I can reduce by my choice of purchase, right? And then, oh, this, and this, maybe I can talk to the store or retailer. And this definitely, I need to talk to a manufacturer. This, and this. We need some kind of regulation to be in, right? So then you will sort of notice who is responsible for that single-use plastic packaging item. So then now you have the specific action towards those decision makers to actually advocate. So that's sort of like, you know, you can like start like today. to take action.
We'll have that on our website soon. We're working on that page, our Recipe for Change page. It's gone from being simple to complicated, and we're trying to simplify it again. but a lot of people ask those questions, and a lot of people come to watch the movie and to the plastic pollution problem, or even to addressing zero waste. They enter the issue at different points. Sometimes schools are still using styrofoam trays in their schools. Many schools are still using styrofoam trays, believe it or not, even though we know how toxic they are, from the beginning of production to eating off of them to disposing of them. And so students just want to know, how do we get rid of the styrofoam trays in our schools? We still get emails all the time from all over the country of people asking us that question. Other people come and they might be composting and recycling really well, but they're still using a lot of single-use plastic. Maybe it's not even in their school, but maybe in their community or their delis or their town, their municipality, their town hasn't yet passed plastic bag bans. We have states in United States, we have states that have passed laws to ban laws against plastic bans, believe it or not. So even if you're like a very hip community in Austin, Texas, for instance, you might be facing other issues, regional or state issues, that, you know, you're like a little island of progress where around you and your whole state might be trying to block you, which is really common and horrible. So there are many different kinds of actions that need to be taken. And that's why the Recipe for Change is important. And I think also sometimes people feel like, well, I'm just one person, and how can I do this? And in particular, young people. And we see that sometimes, you know, we call it the power of twos. That, you know, we even have a game. We made a little game that's part of our remote learning resources to help understand the power of two mathematically. And it's really great to find one other person to help you. And then each one of you find yet another person. And that's actually how cafeteria culture was started. That's how we built the Styrofoam Out of Schools campaign. You know, starting with one issue, we were all doing other things in our lives. And, you know, one day, one comment, then another person, then two of us got together. And then there were 4 of us and 8 of us. And now there's thousands of us all over the world working on getting rid of single-use plastics and other plastics, microplastics that are a problem.
I just wanted to say that that's right, that it starts with one person, but the powers of 2, and it becomes all about collective action. And so it's going to take all of us, but it takes, when we're all collectively doing something, the better. And so we're trying, you know, we're building a movement, our own movement. There are lots of movements out there moving in the same direction. And the more we can sort of gather steam and gather one another, the stronger we are.
Yeah, whatever the issue that you want to work on, you can start small. And then, you know, within your community, try something new, right? So then you have to have before data and then after data. That's important. That's sort of like a part of Recipe for Change, that you take the data before you do anything, right? Let's say you belong to a church or, you know, something, the community. Then you do a campaign of some sort, and then you actually take the data afterwards. So then compare. So then now you have, okay, we reduced blah blah items of single-use plastics by doing this. Then now you can bring that picture and the data to the authority, you know, whoever that makes decision about waste management. Then they can actually visualize the success. So that's an important part of it. So if you have a small pilot within your community, then now the authority will say yes to do some kind of bigger scale campaign. Then that becomes bigger and bigger, and then other communities will do. So that's sort of like another sort of tip of the Recipe for Change.
And that's really how cafeteria culture has been able to advocate. We're a very small organization. We're underfunded. We're understaffed, and yet we've been able to make this movie. We were able to catalyze getting rid of styrofoam out of all of New York City schools and 10 other of the largest school districts in the country. And how do we do that? Exactly that method. So we're teaching what we have used for successful change, for making successful change. And the Styrofoam Out of Schools campaign started with one pilot of Trayless Tuesdays in one school, then 2 schools. And then within a very short period of time, we had it in all schools once a week, Trayless Tuesdays. And of course, as soon as you do it once a week, people say, this is silly. Why don't we just do it on Tuesdays and not every other day of the week? This is possible. Now we're using that same recipe, that same concept to get rid of the rest of single-use plastics. And because of this movie, after the movie was made, we had a Q&A like this, but in person and with a big hall of people, and the school food director who was in the movie was there on stage to answer questions. And the students posed to him, they said, Mr. O'Brien, why don't we have plastic-free lunch day every day in New York City schools? Or let's have a citywide plastic-free lunch day. And Cafeteria Culture worked with the school food directors before the pandemic, and New York City agreed to do a citywide plastic-free lunch day in May 2020. Then the pandemic happened. We did a lot of work for it that we have to do all over again. But we will do that because we know that if we do that one day, citywide of plastic-free lunch day that started in one school, and now we know we can amplify it to 1,800 schools. And if we can do that, then we know people will look at it and say, well, that wasn't that hard. We did that for one day. Maybe now we can, school food directors will first say, we already know, they're already thinking about it. They won't say it publicly, but they're already thinking, well, we have pizza day. That could be a plastic-free lunch day. That's easy, right? So we're already eating with kids, or mostly kids are eating with their hands anyway, and we adopt some other protocols for that day. And maybe then we do once a week, plastic-free lunch day, or you could call it climate smart lunch day and do it on Fridays. And it could be climate action Friday in the cafeteria. So there's ways to bring these other issues. And once you do it one day a week, we already know then people in particular in schools, students will say, why aren't we doing this every day? School food staff will say, that wasn't so hard. We can do this more days during the week. Why don't we adopt this for always, for all time? This is an important issue. So it's also like being one step ahead. And actually, like Atsuko said about the photos, it's the same thing with the pilots. It's visualizing change, that as humans, we have some sort of blockage about imagining sometimes. And sometimes when you can just see it, it's like, oh, I get it now. And we really do need, there is that power of the visuals.
I also want to say that something Cafeteria Culture has done from the very beginning is to call people in and let them be part of our success, so that we're not owning the success. We're not demanding, we're not making a big stink, but we're not shying from the facts, the sometimes difficult to sit with facts about why we want to get rid of styrofoam or to get rid of so much plastic. But we're allowing, do you notice at the end of the plastic-free lunch day, how we brought out all of the school food workers and we celebrated them, we applauded them, because we couldn't have done it without their help. Whether they came kicking and screaming or whether they came voluntarily and wanted to be part of it, they in the end, there's a success, and we can quantify the success because we do waste audits and we have pictures of a success, and then we bring other people and we can celebrate what they've done and what they've been willing to do.
I wanted to ask if anybody else has any other questions. Michelle, if you're still on there, I know that maybe you'd like to share this further in your community. Do you have any specific questions about how we made the movie or sharing the movie? Or often people ask us about the kids who are in the movie, what are they doing now? Which they're now 8th graders. It's just really watching them, when we see them now, they look like giants. They seem like they're adults already in 8th grade. And of course, 5th grade to 8th grade is a gigantic jump, as you probably all know. And one of the things that we did after the movie ended, we had thought about it for years, and then when we finished the movie and we got it out there and we had this amazing group of students, we knew we had to do this, is that we started a youth advocates program. So it's an after school program. We're meeting remotely every week with a group of students from different parts of New York City who come together online, and we bring in presenters to talk about different issues, but we also work on projects. They have testified in front of City Council recently on the pause that's been put on composting in New York City schools and neighborhoods, the city's organics collection. And they did an amazing job. Once again, they were the stars of the hearing because they're speaking also there. It's not just the youth voice. The youth voice is gigantic, but it's also youth of color. And it's a voice that has been desperately needed in the environmental movement. And so the timing is really, really incredible that we've been doing this work for 10 years. And now people are recognizing how important this work is. And we're so grateful to be able to be at home in so many different communities in New York City and welcome, and to be able to continue to mentor and nurture our alum from our program as they get older. And one of our alum spoke at the Youth Climate Strike in New York City to tens of thousands of people on the same stage as Greta. It was the first time she'd ever spoken publicly like that. Since then, a year and a half later, she's been asked to speak on other occasions. She's been included in books, in magazines, and interviews on news. And she's been accepted with a great scholarship to an incredible college that I don't know that it's public information yet, having gone to a Title I school and grown up, you know, really as a first generation immigrant in New York City. She's like a success story who started in our program as a 5th grader. So it's very, very exciting for us to see the potential, what we can do to help and nurture our students as they get older. And we're doing the same now with some of our students from the movie, helping them get into high school, which is complicated in New York, not like most other places in the world.
Very. I put a link on the in the chat, in the comments, for our Youth Advocates page, where we have a podcast. 2 episodes, I think, are up, where our youth advocates are speaking about, 3 now. I have to catch up. And then also the video on our YouTube channel of Rebecca speaking at the climate strike. And you can explore on our YouTube channel and see Rebecca when she was younger, much younger, speaking at City Hall.
Starting in 5th grade. And one of the things she says, I can't remember if she says it in that video, but she talks a lot about how she was inspired by going out and doing what we call creative advocacy. We made puppets with our class. So they were very simple puppets. And we went out to actually promote recycling, better recycling. And it made such an impression on her. And now she's part of the Youth Advocates. They're developing a big creative advocacy project around mural making, filmmaking, to reach out to building community through creative advocacy. So it's very, very cool for us to see how she's blossomed. She also presented at the mayor's State of the City address last year, and Letitia James, who's the New York State Attorney General, yelled out with our mayor de Blasio there, she yelled out, "Rebecca for mayor." And then the whole audience yelled, "Rebecca for mayor." So I think she'll probably be something more like senator, maybe president.
Yeah. Does anybody have anything, you can put it in the chat, how, if you were shocked by anything that you learned in the movie, or if there's something you're going to do differently, if you're going to take personal action in your life, either more advocacy or change your buying habits.
I also just want to say a little bit about the Red Hook community also. That's one of the things people ask us a lot. Why did we choose this school to make the movie? And first of all, just to give a little background information, as you may know, you can't really just go into a school in New York City and make a movie. It's not like you just go in with cameras. It takes a lot of work to build the trust of Department of Education. Thank goodness. As parents, I think most of us right here now say, like, of course, like, you wouldn't want somebody just coming in and taking advantage of kids. So we follow all the protocol very carefully. And we've been teaching media production and video production as a part of our program since the start. Atsuko and I both come from a media production background. Rhonda comes from a theater background. So that very interdisciplinary part of our program is critical in terms of giving youth voice, that they take their data and they create their own narratives around it and share it with their communities. And we put out these new narratives like the movie into the world. So we were running this program of Plastic Free Waters program in 3 schools in New York City. All of them were communities that were servicing primarily students living in public housing and mostly lower income communities, which is primarily where we work in New York City. And we got a grant from the US EPA. Remember them? The Environmental Protection Agency. They used to give out grants to organizations like us. We hope to get some more now with our new administration. And it was incredible that they actually supported the project that included not just data collection and education around plastic pollution, but also media production. And PS15 was one of the schools, and we had done a little bit of work there before, but there was something special about the school from the moment that we walked in. And it is what we call in New York City a community school. So they offer services all the time and all kinds of services to the community, not just K through pre-K through 5th grade education. Atsuko, you want to tell a little more?
Yeah, I mean, you go into the school, you feel the air of all the adults really caring, kids. And then, um, like, not only teachers and staff, like custodians, kitchen staff, everybody is just so strongly tied together. And that was like so inspiring as as a community, but also, of course, the storytelling of the students about this issue was very special and inspiring. So then, we felt like they're the ones sort of took our hands to go into their journey with them. It's not like us just taking them, it's just that they took us. So we were sort of paying attention to their series of aha moments where, like students realizes something new. Oh my God. So this is, I thought this issue was about uh, let's say turtles getting plastic straws, or whales eat plastic bags. So then they realize it's not just that. This issue is much bigger than that. And then also finding out the consequences of that coming back to themselves as a community, and then came up with the idea of starting from their school to do something. So that was sort of like all the series of aha moments was inspiring. And then at the time, of course, we have this YouTube channel, and then one of our videos has 30 million views. If you haven't checked that, please, that's School Lunch in Japan on this channel. Then we were always, bringing cameras, and, as Debbie Lee told that, we are teaching film production and stuff. But then, I thought like this story in this school should go out, like a bigger go out to a bigger audience. So that's why sort of like we decided to make a feature length documentary as a small organization. Do you want to take over?
We really made this movie on a shoestring budget, and Atsuko would be in the classroom both teaching and filming at the same time, which was challenging, but at the same time that was also an advantage. But what happens is that what happened was that the movie was no longer just our movie, it was their movie. And as Atsuko said, they took our hands and they led the way. But when you think about it, if you think about the documentary movies, like I've been thinking about it more since we made this movie. I look at other documentaries and I think, oh, why do I really like that documentary? And why does this documentary really get on my nerves? And part of it is that if you start making a documentary and you already know what your story is going to be, often it's really not successful. I mean, it might get some points across. It might be very slick. It might be well funded. It might be beautifully shot. But there's some incredible strength and beauty and power about making a documentary where you don't know what's going to happen. And it's true. It's really true to the story itself, because the people you are documenting are telling the story and you're letting them tell the story. And in this case, the students really became our partners, not just in the storytelling, but also in the filmmaking. Even if they weren't holding the camera, because they were given cameras, because they were with the camera all the time in the classroom, they began to understand also the process of filmmaking and telling their story. What they didn't understand, I don't think any of them did, including the teachers, we didn't either, really, was that we had the potential to reach such a wide audience and such a global audience. And now that the movie's been in 37 countries, we see that this movie that we made, and we originally thought, well, this might be interesting for other schools in New York, maybe other large urban cities in the US. And we find actually that the message is resonating in all kinds of diverse communities, all in countries across the world. And that's very touching for us to see that. And it's also about this moment in time in the world, that this issue is so universal, and we can work on a local level, we can work on a regional and a country level, national level, but we really do need to work globally to solve this crisis.
Debbie, do you want to talk about the national bill? Yeah.
Yes, and it's getting long, and we'll thank you all so much for coming in a few minutes. But before we go, we'll just say a few things about policy. There's a federal bill for all of you who are out there everywhere in the US called the Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act. It was introduced last year. It was not brought to the floor yet, but we expect during this congressional session that it will be brought to the floor, and we need an incredible amount of bipartisan support. This bill is the first comprehensive plastic bill that really addresses the root causes of plastic pollution, which includes extended producer responsibility, so holding manufacturers responsible for certain products, that they don't just make it in a linear fashion and put it out there and then it's not their problem, but they would be responsible for the end use of the product, to support bans on certain single-use plastic items. So we've seen, and part of the reason why that's even possible to have a national law now, or even to have the legislation written, is because these laws have been successful in regionally or in cities around the country. And once that happens, that builds support to build a law nationally where it can happen, because we have enough examples that it works in this country. And it also puts a pause on some of the new plastic infrastructure facilities that are being built, like Judith Enck explained during the movie, that the $164 billion, it's actually more than that now, I believe the estimate, that's going into ethylene cracker plants and other kinds of plastic facilities, because now the fossil fuel industry is really using plastic production as their plan B. Now that the climate crisis issue has really being addressed, they're like, okay, if we can't sell our fossil fuels, we can sell this cheap fracked gas to the plastic industry. And even if we pass all the bans in the world in the US, this raw material plastic will be shipped to countries all over the world to make cheap single-use plastic. So we at the US have a huge responsibility to put a pause on plastic production. And that really is one of the most important parts of the bill. So when we talk about the recipe for change, and we think, okay, great, it is great that you bring your reusable bag, and it is great that you bring your reusable cup if you can, if you have a local deli that will take your reusable cup at this time. And it is great that you consider how you purchase things, but we will not make systemic change if we do not get these policies passed. And we really all need to take that bigger, deeper dive into making change and get out there, make sure we're electing people that support plastic pollution, policies that stop plastic pollution. They're out there, whether they're local. Pay attention to your hyper local people, whether it's your school board, the heads of your school board who can make decisions about plastic in your school cafeterias and your public school cafeterias, because those are big, often big contracts. Or whether it's your US senator who can actually vote on this Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act or be a co-sponsor or one of your Congress members. But we really need everybody now to step up and let your voice be heard. Pick up the phone, talk to your legislators, staff. Making calls sometimes is the best thing you can do. Build a coalition, a little coalition of people who you think could help you, maybe who are a little different than you are, who represent different sectors in your community, and go and meet with your policymakers. Often policymakers need to be educated. If you need more information, we're here to help you. We just put up a Take Action page, and we also have on our website a new page about the plastic pollution crisis. It's a work in progress. We'll continue to update that so that actually you can have information. You can cite articles and recent studies about human health and microplastics, which, for instance, that's one of the things that we find really grabs not just everyday people, but also our policymakers. As soon as you're talking about public health, they're more inclined to take action immediately. So we'll have more information on the Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act soon. And we're also developing a teach-in, which is a resource that youth in particular, or other people working with youth, or really any organization can use. We're modeling it to show how you have this interactive presentation that shows the different aspects and teaches the different aspects of the Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act. But then we give that presentation for other people to use and share within their own communities so that we can get the word out. And most importantly, not to the same old ears, but people who are not in your algorithms on social media. So how are we going to reach those people? You know, the people, and really by framing this issue of the plastic pollution as a public health crisis, that's really the way. It doesn't matter whether you're a Democrat or Republican. And if you're in the Great Lakes region, or you're in New Hampshire, or you're in Texas, we're all concerned about our communities and the health of our communities. And this is an opportunity to build support across the aisle.
Right. And as Judith Enck, I just want to quote her, she just said recently, we've all seen climate change deniers, but we've never seen plastic pollution deniers. So it's an issue that we can use to start with the plastic pollution, to take us to make aha moments for other people about the health implications and further.
And if you have any questions for us, you can always go to our website, either cafeteriaculture.org or microplasticmadness.org. And up on the top right-hand corner of the website, there are some icons there. There's a little envelope icon, hit on it. It comes to me. Sometimes I'm slow. Sometimes I forward it out to Rhonda or Marjorie or someone else on our team. But and I have to tell you, I prioritize youth emails. So if I get emails from students, I answer those first, often before even policymakers and adults. I feel like they're the most important. But this is an incredible time also to engage youth. So please share this movie and this opportunity. We really want to get it out there. We try to make it as accessible as possible. We'll try to be there for Q&As. We'd love to show it in your schools, that you know, your community. If you have friends who are teachers, if you have children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, friends that are young, we're here for them. Help us to get this important message out. The timing is now. We're really ready to go, and we really feel that not just the US, but if you're in another country, that this is global issue is really coming to a place now where people are ready to act. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you so much.
People actually stayed until the end.
I know.
Thank you, Kelsey and Daniel, our team from Cafeteria Culture. Daniel Ramos, who's also did much of the incredible animation in the movie. He was the director on the animation, and Kelsey, who is leading our special projects and doing incredible research, not just for our education, but also in policy. Thank you all so much for helping us today, and thank you all for joining. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.